Hey everybody, it's Jesse, and today we're going to learn about parameterized routing. I'm actually going to set it up. Uh, I started working on it before this live stream because I thought it would take a long time, and it turns out I pretty much got most of it done beforehand, which is a good problem to have. But I'm going to go through it and kind of test it with all of you. And I'm a little bit nervous because it worked so fast with very few problems, so I'm expecting something to break. I don't know if you all have that same feeling sometimes when things just work. You get a little bit nervous, like, oh, it's gonna break. I know it. So I have a lot of things to share with you. It's been a while since my last live stream was Tuesday. Yeah, so it's been a while. So I went to SyntaxCon in Charleston, South Carolina last week, and so that's why I wasn't streaming. The Wi-Fi at the conference was not reliable enough to stream from. It kept making me sign back in, and so I don't think there was any way. I couldn't even do a speed test to see. The speed test just failed. The Wi-Fi at the hotel was better, but by the time I got done with the conference, got something to eat, and got back to my hotel, I was honestly I was kind of tired, and I didn't think it would be a great stream. So I missed streaming, but now I'm back and I'm refreshed. I did some interviews with some people at SyntaxCon, and I'm going to share those with you. I think we're going to watch one at the end of this video. So the way I did is I just filmed people, asked them a few questions, and I filmed them on my phone. And I'll just play the video. What I'm hoping will happen is I can play the video, and you guys will watch it on my screen, and the audio will come through the speakers, and hopefully the mic will pick it up. I didn't try it yet. I'm not sure if it'll work. If you know of any other way that I could get working in like 2 minutes, that would be better. Let me know. I'm using OBS for my streaming, so if anybody's familiar with that, but I think it should work. We'll see how it goes. But I think maybe about 5 videos. So as I stream, I'll just do like one a day. I also took a lot of notes and some of my thoughts on the different talks in the conference. So I'll be sharing those with you from time to time and kind of giving you just a quick summary of some of the things that were talked about. There's some really cool stuff, exciting things. Charleston's a great city. If you ever get a chance to visit there or to go to SyntaxCon, I definitely recommend it. Great food, especially great seafood. They're right on the ocean there. So anyway, enough about my trip. Let's get to it. I want to show you. I'll show you the code. So here's what we've done. Probably since let me think. What's the last thing you all saw? Okay, so I think the last time we definitely didn't have a server.js file. We were using the default routing that comes with Next.js. So if you're just joining us and you haven't seen any of the other videos, we're building a site with React, but we use Next.js as our boilerplate, and that comes built in with routing and with server-side rendering. So it allowed us to get a React app up and running really fast. But what we want to be able to do, and this is where the parameterized routing comes in, is normally when you go to a website that has a blog, you click to go to a certain post, to an individual blog post. We don't know how many blog posts are going to be there. So I'm not going to manually hard code pages in Next. So you see, let me zoom in here. So if you see this pages section, with Next, everything you want to be a page has to be in this pages folder. So we definitely don't want to hard code all of this. So what we need to do is make a way for pages to just be kind of built on the fly. And that's the parameterized routing. So what we want to happen is when someone goes to the URL that has /news at the end, then there's going to be another slash, and whatever's on the end of that, that's going to be a new, essentially it's going to be like a blog post, but we're calling it news instead of blog. So does that make sense? I know there's a delay, so you probably won't be able to answer me for another minute. But hopefully it'll make sense as we go through and you actually see it demonstrated. So we are pulling data from the WordPress API to do this. So that adds another layer of complexity, and we'll get to that. So let me show you what I've done. I'll go back to my package JSON file, and this shows us all the dependencies. So in order to get this kind of custom routing going, which Next is pretty cool in that if you need something more than what comes right off the bat with Next, all you have to do is add a server.js file, and you can set up your routing however you want. Really easy. So all I've added here is Express and this LRU cache, which we don't really need for routing, but it's really cool. I'll show you what that does after we get done with the routing. So that's it. I just added, basically to get the routing done, just one more npm package. So now let's go to the server.js. So if you're not familiar with Node, this might look weird to you. If you are familiar with Node, it might still look weird to you, maybe if I'm not doing it quite right. But some of the, I am using ES6, so you'll see there's like arrow functions. I'm using const and let. So when you see const and let, just think var if you're not familiar with ES6 or ES 2015 as it's called. And then when you see an arrow function, just think like regular, for now at least, just think regular function. Like think that I've put the word function here, and these are all normal functions. So basically, they behave in pretty much the same way. And for our purposes here, that's all we need to worry about. So I've required Express. I've required Next. We're not going to worry about this cache for now. Here, I've just set up a variable so it'll know whether or not we're in development mode or whether we're in production. I've set up the directory, and I've told it what directory to go to, and let's see. This is for the cache, so we don't need to worry about that. This is also for the cache, also for the cache. All right, so here's where it starts. So we have Express as our server, and so now we can go server.get, and now it's getting anything that's the slash. Basically, we're going to render. Now, I have this set up to render in cache, so it wouldn't, if you weren't doing the caching, it wouldn't necessarily do this. So let me go down to our function here where it says render in cache. So basically, if we've rendered this before and we have a cache, it's going to send the cached version of the HTML. Otherwise, it's going to, where are we at? Sorry, I'm trying to look at this. Okay, otherwise it's going to say render to HTML. Okay, so that's going to render on the server side all the HTML. So it's going to get our calls. Sorry guys, I was pretty much ignoring the live chat for a couple minutes. Looks like it's not too... I'm either boring you guys or I'm being confusing. because the live chat is pretty dead. But basically what it's going to do is render on the server all the HTML and then send all of that to the client. So it's going to make the API calls to get the data we need from WordPress. It's going to put that all together. Then, once we do that once, it's not going to do it again the next time. It's just going to cache all that. So think how much time that's going to save. It's going to be really fast. It doesn't have to make that whole trip to WordPress and to get the data. It's just going to be able to spit out that HTML. It's not even going to have to go through the process of rendering at all. So that's really cool. Now, one thing you'll notice, I'll go back up to the top. When we're just doing in dev mode, the cache time is really low. It's like 100 milliseconds. So we're not actually going to get the benefit, and that's because I want to be able to see the changes quickly. I don't want to have to mess with caching. But once this goes onto the server and it's live, then we set a much more reasonable cache time. In this case, we have 1 hour. I will say this. I grabbed a lot of this code and modified it from other places, and I'm sorry I didn't put in all the places where I got it. Normally I do that. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I actually grabbed this code from a project that I did in March, so I can't remember where I got this in March. So if this is your code and you see this, let me know, and I will attribute it to you. So I mean, I have changed it, so it might not be as easy to recognize. But some of this is actually just from the Next.js examples in their Git repo. So this is actually a part of their documentation. Let's see. All right, so enough about the caching. I think we know enough about that to understand what's going on. So basically all you're doing here is I'm telling this server is if we get this URL, then we're going to render and cache the page that corresponds to that URL. So in this case, say if the page says news, then give us, if the URL says news, then give us the news page, right? What would normally be rendered with next is anything in this pages folder. So just kind of passing that on and rendering it as next would do. Now here's the different part. This section here, let me know if the font's too small. You know what, I'm just going to make it bigger. Sometimes I shrink it up to when I'm not streaming and I forget to make it bigger again. Okay, so here's the cool part. Now, when the URL has news plus some string at the end, we're going to do something different. Okay, we're going to make this variable, we call it query params, and this is just going to be an object, and it's going to say ID rec params ID. This is just going to give us whatever this string is after the slash. Okay, so we want that, and we're going to pass that. So we're going to do render and cache, but we're going to tell it to render this single news page. I'll show you the markup for that in a second. And then we're going to pass it this query params. Okay, so let's check out what's going on in the news page. So I did this all ahead of time because I assumed that the server setting up the routing and stuff would take a really long time, but it didn't. So, but here's what's different. We already saw in a previous video how to make an API call using this getInitialProps function, but now there's something different. We didn't have this before. This query ID, this is giving us what we passed in on the server, right? So we passed in whatever the end of that URL was as ID, and now we're getting it here. So we can use inside of here ID, and we've used it here. So we've used ID as a variable, and that's going to give us whatever that string was after the slash at the end of the URL. Okay, so this is just basic what we've already done. This is our base URL to our WordPress site, and these are, we're getting posts, and then we have this filter. We're going to filter by name, which is basically like the slug. If you're familiar with WordPress, every post has this slug. It's a unique identifier, a unique string. So we want that, and we're going to search for that post. We're going to make a call to the WordPress API to give us data for just that post with a slug name that is going to be the same as that name at the end of the URL that we pulled in. All this extra stuff is just, I'm just telling the API what I want. So I want these fields. I don't need everything about the post because I'm not going to use it all. I just need these things. So now we're just going to use fetch. We're using isomorphic fetch, meaning it's a version of fetch that can run on the server. And if you're not familiar with fetch, when I say fetch, think like Ajax, if you were to use jQuery for Ajax calls. So all I'm doing here is just putting these two strings together because I want to search, I want to use fetch to get the whole thing together. And then what we return, what we get back from that response is going to be some JSON data, and it's going to get the variable of data. Okay, so down here, we're going to do a lot of stuff with that data. Some of this is just checking to make sure we don't get errors, to make sure our data is really there. And I can show you, maybe it'll help if I show you what the data will look like. So let me go ahead, I'll just grab these and I'll show you an example of what this data will be. If you have questions as I'm going along, I'll try to check back in on the live chat. If I don't see it right away, at the end, I will check out everything in the live chat and I will answer them. If you can't stick around for the end, then just put the question in the comments for the video and then I'll answer it later on. I try to answer every question in the comments. Sometimes it might take me a week or so if I'm busy, but I do try to answer everything if you ask in the comments. Okay, so let's go. Alright, so on my other screen, I was just making this call. Okay, so I'm going to have to make this a little bigger because I know this is really small even for me, so I'm sure on your screens it's super small. Okay, so this is what's returned. This is the data we get back, and that's in this data variable here. So we've got this post. In this case, the slug, the ID for this, the ID in string form is hello world. So we've gotten this hello world post. We have a title. We have the content. We have the category number, not necessarily the name of the category. And we have some additions. I have a lot of extra things in addition to the just basic WordPress API going on. So if you're using the API, you might not see all of these things. I'm not sure if anybody's interested in me going over how I set up the WordPress API, but if you are, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do a video on that. So basically, we've got the image. In this case, I threw in an image just so we could see the data from it. So if you're not familiar with WordPress, when you upload an image, normally if the image is big enough, it will automatically resize that image into several sizes. So we have a thumbnail version of our image, medium, medium, large, large. We have 2017 featured image, so evidently the theme I'm running right now is 2017, which it doesn't really matter what theme you're running if you're just pulling data from the API, but it actually gives us 2 more versions. And then we have the original version here at the bottom. If we just pull source URL, we get the original version. Okay, we have categories here, so by default, you just get the ID of the category, but that's not very useful. So I want the actual name of the category. In this case, we just have uncategorized because I didn't set up categories yet. So we could also have tags. I have no tags set up yet, but we would see a similar thing. If we wanted to pull all the tags, we could see that. All right, so that's the data, which is useful if you're not familiar with the API. Hopefully this will make a little bit more sense about what we're doing. So let's just see. When we want to work with this data variable, we have to say this props, right? Because what we've done here, when it returns this data, it's become a prop. If you're not familiar with props, last week at some point I did a video where we talked about props, so you can check that out. So this props, everything we do has to have this at the beginning, and then we can get to the variable, which is data. Okay, so this props data, now we're actually getting into that JSON data that I just showed you. Okay, so all this is checking for is, do we actually have any data here? If so, then we want to grab the title. So we want, and I'm using template literal syntax. This is ES6, ES 2015 syntax. When you do this, it's just like a string, except within the string, if you put a $sign and a curly bracket, anything in there is JavaScript. So you don't have to end your string, put a plus, and then do your JavaScript, put another plus, and then start your string again. You can just do it all in line. So it's really a lot more clean looking, takes up a lot less space. So we've dropped down into here and into JavaScript here, and we're getting that data, but we just want the first item of that data. So the way that the data comes in from WordPress is everything's in an array, right? So we're grabbing the first item in the array. And since we only grab one item, right, we only grab one post, we're only going to have one item. So I just want that first item, and I want the title, and then we always have to put rendered when we want the title or the content. That's just the way they set up the data from the API. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm sure they had a good reason for doing that. But we always have to add this rendered. All right, and then this is just going to be our page title. So if you see, we're actually going to use this down here where we have title, and then I am using dangerously set enter HTML, and it sounds a lot scarier than it is. It is scary if you don't know where your data is coming from, but in this case, we control all the data. We are going to be the only ones putting in the data and pulling it in. Now, why would I need to set this? Normally, I would set this if there are going to be some HTML tags I'm bringing in, but I'll never bring HTML tags in through this title. But what might be brought in is a character that's not going to display properly. So maybe like an and sign. I've made it so that WordPress default for titles is that you can't put HTML in there, but you can put those special characters in there that will not look right. You'll end up getting like the HTML encoding version of that character. So that's why we do it like this. When we do it like this, we will get it to display how it's supposed to display with the correct characters and not the HTML codes for those characters. And so we've simply put in inside, React component, inside the render function. If we put a curly brace, now we've dropped back into JavaScript, and then now we're just adding this. This is, the React way of putting this in here, and we've just added this title tag, right? Because we've made this title tag function, and it's just going to return whatever's here. Now, if let's say this page returns nothing, maybe we misspelled it or that post just doesn't exist, then we're just going to put news in the title. Well, what would happen if we just tried to do this is that we get an error if it returned nothing. So we always need to check to see if the data exists before you try to do anything with it. Otherwise, you'll get an error. You'll get the pink screen that React throws, and you don't want that, certainly for your users. Okay, so that's the basic principle. I'll go through and show you a at least one more time how we've done this down here in the body. Let me check the chat really quick to see if you had any questions. Okay, good. Everybody's at this point either lost or you're understanding everything and you don't have questions. So, okay, so down here in this page, I want to be able to display something if the user tries to get a post that doesn't exist. So I've created this error component. I'll show you the error component. I'm sure I have it up here somewhere. There we go. Let's bring it over here. Okay, so the error component, all it does is it gives us this, main, which all our content goes in main except for navigation and footers. And it just has a little tag that says, no content exists at this address, please try another page. Just to let people know, in a more visually appealing way, that they've essentially got a 404 error. They've tried to look for content that doesn't exist. But it'll look a lot nicer, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. Okay, so this is just checking if the data's length equals 0, meaning if there's no data, show the error. Otherwise, so this is a ternary operator. So this is basically an if statement, a shorthand for an if statement. Within React, within the render function, you can't put if statements directly in here. So if you want to do an if statement, you have to do it in this way with the ternary operator. Okay, so this is our if. If there's no data, then do this, throw the error. Otherwise, and that's what this colon is, we're going to do this. So otherwise, we want to show this bit of HTML. So we're going to, just our regular markup. We're going to put everything in main. We're going to wrap it all in that. We're going to bring in our sticky nav, just like we're doing on all our pages. Okay, our sticky nav component. And then we're going to drop down into a little bit of JavaScript, and this is the check. So we always have to check for data. In this case, I'm checking to see if an image has been uploaded. If no image has been uploaded, then better featured image is going to equal null. And then we don't want to try to get that image because we'll have an error. So first is we're going to check, see, is it equal to null? And we want to make sure, not only we want to see if it's equal to null, but we also want to see if it has an image size of large. Because we don't want to show, this image here is going to be like a big full screen image. So we don't want to show a small image. So somebody happened to upload a really tiny image. I don't want to show a pixelated image. I want to just kind of stop that image from showing up. Because you don't know. Somebody might be putting in content into your WordPress, admin panel, and they don't really understand, image sizes and how that works. So we want to just protect the user from seeing a really pixelated image. So that's what that check does. So assuming there is an image and that image is large enough, then, the first thing, so if there isn't an image or if that image isn't large enough, then we're just going to show this title and, wait, how do we do that? I'm sorry, I had it backwards. Let me start over so I don't confuse you guys. So if the featured image is not equal to null, so we have an image, and that image is large, then we will add our title component. We're going to pass the title, the props to the title component of, what is the title that we pulled from that API data. Then we're going to give it the URL of the image, and we've pulled that right from our data as well. It's just kind of long, so this is just the same thing. We've got the data, we're accessing the first and in this case, only item in that array. We're going to go better featured image, media details, sizes, large, and then in this case, I'm pulling the source URL. I wouldn't always want to do that because somebody could upload an insanely large image. So we'll probably change this, but for now it works. If we don't have a large enough image or any image at all, then we're going to display the same thing. We're going to do the title. We're going to pass in the same data as we did before for the title, but then for the image path, I just have an image file in there. We can set that up differently. I've set it up in different sites to actually pull a random image from an array of images. We could set it up so there's no image at all. However we want to set that up, but for now I'm just putting this image in just so there's something there. Okay, and the rest of it's really a lot more simple. We just have our basic, container, a row, a column, and then within that column, we're doing the dangerously set inner HTML again. So don't only do this if you really have complete control over what data is coming in. Don't grab somebody's random data for this. But I'm setting this to pull in that data, and I need to do it like this because that's going to have HTML tags and things in there that we need to be able to bring in and have it render properly as HTML. Otherwise, if we just try to do this down here and not do it this way with dangerously set inner HTML, we would actually see those tags printed on the screen. So in this case, we're just grabbing the content, the rendered content, and that's it. Let me show you what it looks like. So let's go in. If you notice, we have some UI changes. This is probably what this is going to end up looking like. I had a lot of good suggestions from you all as to what this should look like. I ended up not being able to do any type of shadow because this is an image that is very much wanted this little flourish thing here, and this is just I think it's a ping, so I can't get the shadow behind all this. I'm sure there's probably some way to do it, but I'm not great with image editing and I don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to do something like this. It could definitely use a little bit more padding, but we'll see. I'm not like 100% super happy with how it looks, but that's probably going to end up what we have, at least for now. So we have to launch on Thursday. Alright, so let me go to news, the news page. And you can see over here, this is actually, we've started our server. And we did have to make one change. Don't let me forget to show you, we had to make a change in how we start our server. I'll show you that in a second. But it's actually told us that this is a cache miss. So we didn't have this page cached. So it had to build the page. Alright, so here's our just demo data. But now we want to go in and let's type, go to hello world. Right, so I know I have a post that says hello world. Okay, and this is the content from that post. So it's pulled it in. I don't have a page hard-coded in the pages folder that says hello world. So this has actually created this page that wasn't there before. And as long as there's a page with this slug within WordPress, we're going to get it. And I could have thousands of pages within WordPress, thousands of posts, and I can pull all of those. So just, we've built one template file. This is not like a new concept at all, but we built one template file, and now we can have thousands of pages based on that one template. So yeah, I know templates have been around for a long time, but it's still cool when you to do that, to set that up, because it saves so much time. And your site looks huge, even though you've only really made one page. So for some reason, it's giving me a CORS error when I try to pull this image from localhost, so I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll have to set something different in WordPress. So it's not actually pulling the image, but normally the image would be behind here. Now let's see if I did something. So let me just put an extra D on the end of world. Oops. Why did it give me that? We might have found a bug. I think we did find a bug. Yes, we did. For some reason, I'm actually kind of glad this happened because now I'll get to really do some coding. Um, for some reason, we keep getting to the hello world page. Let's see now. Now it's not taking us there. Alright, while we're waiting for that, let me check out. Someone actually commented design flaw. Let me know, what is the design flaw? Are we talking about this not working right now, or are we talking about this this thing behind the title? I think I would probably agree with you if you're talking about this title, or even the other thing. I'm gonna actually restart the server. I've been having a weird error where it just hangs and won't load the page. I've never had that happen before. I do have an error showing up in DevTools, and I'll just have to research that and figure out what's going on. Okay, now let's try to reload. Wow. All right. Well, it's not working. Okay, which is this is why I do this live, so you can see when things get messed up and how we work through it. I may not be able to get this completely fixed before we stop the live stream, which is crazy. I did test it right before the live stream and it was working. I can maybe try to do a hard refresh. Hey, well, at least I got the image to load now. That's really weird. Let me see if it'll load this. Now, I do have another post that I know. Post 2. That is a real post. No, it's still showing the same thing. Let's check our server. Well, let me show you real quick what I did have to do. We changed the dev. It used to be, the command used to be just next. Now, since we're using our custom server instead of the next one, we have to say node and then server.js as our command. So that's the only kind of difference. When I first tried this, I forgot to do this part and I left it as next and it was acting weird and I couldn't figure it out. And then I remembered that. So really only one other file you have to edit to get this working, or at least somewhat working. So what I'm guessing is happening is that somehow something's getting cached somewhere along the way because it keeps showing me this same data when it shouldn't show me that same data. So I'll have to figure that out because I shouldn't. It shouldn't be caching. Okay, I'll figure that out. I think we've gone through enough to see how this works, how it at least should work, and I'll have to double check. I'll go back and look at my code when I did this sometime in March, and it worked in March, and I'll see if I missed any steps. And I'll let you know tomorrow what actually was the problem, assuming I figure it out by tomorrow, which I think I will. I'm going to go to, I'm going to check out the live chat. Oh, and I want to show you the video from SyntaxCon. So let me check real quick in the live chat. Okay, we have somebody from Latvia, Netherlands. Somebody asked the text editor. Okay, they got a response. It is Adam. The theme is the SETI theme, SETI. Someone said this is awesome. Thank you. Someone asked about shortcuts. Adam does have shortcuts. They asked specifically if the shortcuts were like Sublime. I have not used Sublime, so I don't know if they're the same shortcuts. Someone asked if it's like Visual Studio Code does. Yeah, I do use Visual Studio Code and Atom. So Visual Studio Code can let you import shortcuts. So I actually have it set to use all the same shortcuts as Atom. Someone from Nairobi. Oh, okay. Somebody says they're watching and learning in Charleston, South Carolina, and they attended SyntaxCon as well. Awesome. So, really, that's really cool. Uh, I love Charleston. I love being down there. Hopefully, I can come back again next year for SyntaxCon. I think it's in first week of June next year. If you're interested, check it out. Somebody said my video becomes fuzzy sometimes. That's probably the internet wherever you're at, because my stream so far it says the analytics on this says the stream has been in good health the whole time. So I'm assuming maybe it's somewhere else is the connection problem. Why can't I get my navbar collapse to work in React? I would check is your navbar are you running that with jQuery? Sometimes depending, like I'll notice things won't work when I just use like the hot module reloading. If I then do a hard like a refresh in the browser manually, sometimes they do work. The other problem could be it's possible it could be an issue with when the page is loading. So normally you have that document.ready function with jQuery, and it needs to be able to grab the element once it's already on the page. So I would say those two things to look out for. Just see about a refresh, and if it's the refresh issue with the hot module reloading, it won't be an issue when you go to production because you're no longer using that reloading. If it's some issue with the document ready function, it's possible that you may be able to put it inside the component did mount function that you can use in React. You just need to make a function available to be used there. So I guess I've done that before. There is a way to import jQuery into your React component and use it. And then there's also, I've actually made, I don't know how great this is, but I've made a function outside of the document.ready function. So it's basically in the global scope. And inside that function, I've done whatever jQuery thing I need to do. Then I've called that function from within the component did mount function within my component. So at that point, everything's been loaded. Then the function gets called, so you don't need that document.ready function. And that has worked for me sometimes. So hopefully that made sense to you. Ideally, if you can just rework that into like some vanilla JavaScript, you can just put that JavaScript directly in the component. In the you probably won't even, depending on how it works, you might have to put it inside like component did mount or something like that. But that would be the best thing if you can. Okay, and somebody's talking about, so I mentioned before the design flaw. It said the homepage, software design flaw, flow control. I'm still not quite understanding. So Nazar, if you could maybe explain it to me, maybe in the comments or something. I definitely want to know if I have a flaw here, what's going on. I'm just not following what you're saying there. Maybe I just don't know enough about it to realize what you're talking about. Someone says, hit the API endpoint for a non-existent page, see what data is returning. Great idea. Let's do that right now. Let me bring this back. And we'll go filter name, hello world. So let's take out this D here and let's just search. Okay, we are getting no data returned when I switch that out. So the caching isn't on the WordPress side of things, so that at least narrows it down. So thank you, Patrick, for that advice. I'll just give it another shot here just to see. No, yeah, it's still doing that. So at least I know whatever thing is wrong, which I'm assuming is caching, we'll see, is happening on the React side of things and not on the WordPress side. Oh, okay. Someone has said, if you want to squiggle with the shadowing, can send it to you 2 secs. Wow, actually, that's a really good. I, I'm uh, I'm very grateful that you would offer to do that. If you could, I'd love to try it out and see if it looks good, if it works, if it makes it readable. I can't guarantee that I'd actually use it, so I'd hate to have you do work for nothing. Just because I don't make the final design decisions, I actually have to go back and get consensus on these design decisions. So I can't guarantee that I'll use it, but I'd love to see how it looks. If you're still watching and you don't mind, you can. Um, you can check. I don't know if I have my email. I don't know. I have a lot of my contact info. Either put a comment in or direct message me on Twitter, and I can let you know where to send the file to. All right. All right. Thank you. Okay, so I've gotten through what was on the live chat so far. If you're still sticking around, thanks for watching. I'm going to try to play this video that I mentioned at the beginning. If you didn't hear, I've done some interviews, some very short interviews with people at SyntaxCon, the conference I went to last week, and I'm just going to play them. I asked them 4 questions, just 4. I asked them who they were, what their name was, what they did, for a job. I asked them what was one technology that they're really excited about, one new technology, and then I also asked them what advice they would have for people who are just getting started in programming. So I just asked those 4 questions to everybody I interviewed because I thought that might be helpful for you all watching, especially if you're just starting out. So let me go over. Okay, here's the video. And this is Jabari Dawkins. And let me bring this back to the beginning. Hopefully this will play. Maybe. An error occurred. It figures. I had it playing earlier today. Let me try to get it going on my other screen. I feel like I'm rusty at this. I haven't done it in like almost a week, so sorry about that. Things just aren't going as smoothly as they normally do. Okay, I got it playing on my other screen, so um, let me pull this over if I can. Okay. Okay, so here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to unplug my headphones first of all and see if I can get this to play over the speakers. Let's make sure my volume's up. Alright, that sounds like it'll end up being pretty loud. So let me know if you can hear this. There's a little background noise in the video. I took this like right when we were kind of hanging out before the conference started, having breakfast. So let's give it a shot.
Hi, my name is Jabari Dawkins. I'm a software engineer over at Snagajob. Some pretty cool, interesting technology I'm interested in learning about is what Microsoft is doing with the .NET Core framework, learning C#, what new technologies they have going on. As far as advice, I'd say really network, and get to know the people in your tech community. They can definitely help you out. Not only just exposing you to new technologies, but also just acting as a mentor. So you never know who you might meet. So
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, let me know. Could you hear that? And was the background noise too much? The other videos should be better with background noise. I ended up doing the last few videos outside. just so that I didn't have all the people talking from the conference. So I'll wait. I know there's a little bit of a delay. I'll wait a few seconds here and see which, if you guys could hear that. Okay, the delay must be pretty crazy. Um, okay, all right, now it's finally coming in. Okay, we said the background noise was a bit much, but it was doable. Thanks for sharing. I could hear him. Actually met him there, but it was a lot of background noise. Yeah, sorry about the background noise. I didn't realize until I watched it later on how bad the background noise was. So I wish I would have like maybe watched it immediately and tried to do it again. We were kind of running out of time before the conference started, but yeah, the other ones should be better. There's only maybe one other video where some people started talking loudly in the middle of it, but all the rest of them should be fine. I think I only did 5, but anyway, that's all I have for now. I'm gonna get to work on trying to figure out what I messed up so that it keeps returning the same page to me, and I will. I'll let you know maybe either in the comments to this recording when the video gets posted, or tomorrow maybe when we start the next stream. I'll let you know what went wrong. But I actually like when things go wrong because that's just how things go sometimes. You got to deal with failure and temporary setbacks. But thanks for watching, especially if you're still sticking around. Thank you for sticking around all this time. I went well over my normal half hour. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And especially thank you to Tyus Durant. Sorry if I messed up your name at all. Thank you for editing that file for me, and I'll check Twitter and check your DM on Twitter and see how that looks. I'll put the link to this site. I do have this on an actual server now too, so I'll sync everything up to the server, and I'll put the link in the description so you guys can check that out. There's already a link to the GitHub repo for this, so you can play around with it if you want. And make any suggestions that you might have. I'm certainly no expert, and I'm open to your help. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.